Bill 7 passed but UPND will lose election 2026? Esther Lango's bold prediction explained. UPND has won Bill 7, the votes are counted, the law is passed. But according to Esther Lango, that victory may come at a heavy cost. She says the real battle isn't in Parliament. It's in 2026. Tonight, we examine this warning. Is Bill 7 a strategic masterstroke or the moment UPND lost public trust? And what does history tell us about governments that win laws, but lose the people? Good day viewers. Welcome to another edition of InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. Well, we're nearing the end of another eventful week here in Zambian politics, and if you've been following the news, you know there's never a dull moment. Today, we're diving into something that has set tongues wagging across the nation, a bold, controversial prediction that's got everyone talking. Picture this: the ruling United Party for National Development has just secured a significant legislative victory. Bill 7, the contentious Constitution Amendment Bill, has passed through Parliament. The champagne corks are popping in State House. Victory speeches are being prepared. The UPND, it seems, has consolidated its power, redrawn the political landscape to its advantage, and positioned itself for electoral dominance in 2026. But what if I told you that in the very moment of this triumph, the seeds of their defeat have been sown? What if the very legislation they fought so hard to pass becomes the instrument of their downfall? What if the political chess move they thought was checkmate turns out to be a fatal blunder? And what if one voice, one prominent political figure, has seen through the smoke and mirrors to predict an outcome that contradicts everything the ruling party believes? Enter Esther Lango, a name that needs no introduction in Zambian political circles. A seasoned politician, former minister, and someone who has weathered many political storms. She has made a prediction so startling, so contrary to conventional wisdom, that it demands our attention. Despite passing Bill 7, despite their apparent control of the political machinery, the UPND will lose the 2026 elections. How can victory contain the seeds of defeat? How can a ruling party at the height of its power be standing on the edge of an electoral precipice? What does Esther Lango see that others are missing? And could her words be prophetic, or are they merely the wishful thinking of the opposition? These are the questions we must grapple with today. Because if Lango is right, we are witnessing not the consolidation of power, but the beginning of its unraveling. Factual foundation. The revelation came to light during a highly publicized political gathering in Lusaka just days after the National Assembly voted to pass the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill No. 7 of 2024. The date was significant. The bill had passed on December 11, 2024, with 149 votes in favor and 32 against, giving the UPND the constitutional threshold they needed. Bill 7, as it's commonly known, has been one of the most contentious pieces of legislation in recent Zambian history. The bill makes significant amendments to the Constitution, including provisions that critics say give excessive power to the executive branch, alter the electoral landscape, and potentially disadvantage opposition parties. The UPND government has defended the bill as necessary for good governance and efficiency, but opposition parties have called it a naked power grab designed to entrench the ruling party's dominance. It was against this backdrop, on December 15, 2024, that Esther Lango made her stunning prediction at a political forum organized by civil society organizations at the Mulungushi International Conference Center. Lango, who served in previous administrations and is currently affiliated with opposition political structures, was part of a panel discussing the implications of Bill 7 for Zambia's democratic future. The initial suspicion that something was amiss with the UPND strategy had been building for weeks among political analysts. Even as the government pushed Bill 7 through Parliament, public sentiment on the ground told a different story. Opinion polls, though limited and sometimes unreliable in Zambia, had begun showing a disconnect between the ruling party's confidence and the electorate's mood. Social media was awash with criticism. Town hall meetings in various constituencies had become heated affairs where citizens confronted their MPs about the bill. But it was Lango who crystallized this growing unease into a concrete prediction. Her speech, which lasted approximately 23 minutes, methodically laid out her case for why Bill 7, far from being the UPND's masterstroke, was actually an act of political self-sabotage that would come back to haunt them in 2026. Within hours of her speech, clips were circulating on WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter. By the following morning, state media was running responses from UPND officials dismissing her claims. The debate had officially begun. Direct evidence. Let me take you directly to Esther Lango's words, because they are worth hearing in full. Standing at the podium, looking directly into the cameras, Lango began her analysis. Let me be very clear about what we have witnessed with Bill 7. The UPND government sincerely believes, that they have secured their future. They believe that by changing the rules of the game, they have guaranteed themselves victory in 2026. But, what they have actually done is something quite different. They have awakened a sleeping population. She paused, letting that sink in, before continuing. You see, Zambians are generally peaceful people. We don't rush to the streets. We don't always respond immediately to political maneuvers. But we remember. And we act when it matters, at the ballot box. Bill 7 has done something that the opposition could never have done on its own. It has united disparate groups. It has angered the youth. It has concerned even those who voted UPND in 2021. A journalist in the audience interjected, "Mrs. Lango, are you saying the UPND will definitely lose in 2026? Lango's response was unequivocal, "I am not speculating. I am reading the mood on the ground. Yes, if the elections were held today, UPND would lose. And unless they change course dramatically, and I mean dramatically, they will lose in 2026. Bill 7 is not their salvation. It is their albatross." She went on to elaborate, "Let me give you specifics. The bill alters constituency boundaries in ways that UPND thought would favor them. But they miscalculated. The new boundaries have actually consolidated opposition votes in many areas while spreading UPND support too thin. They thought they were being clever, but they failed to do the proper demographic analysis." Another panelist challenged her, "But surely the resources of government, the incumbency advantage. Doesn't that count for something?" Lango's reply was sharp, "It counts for something, yes. But not everything." In 2021, the PF had all those same advantages. They controlled state media. They had resources. And what happened? A unified opposition and an angry electorate swept them out of power. The UPND seems to have forgotten this lesson. They seem to think they are somehow different, somehow immune to the people's will. She continued with increasing passion. "I have been in politics for 25 years. I have seen governments come and go. And I can tell you that what I'm seeing now, the arrogance, the deaf ear to public concerns, the belief that legislative victories translate to electoral victories, these are the classic signs of a government that has lost touch. Bill 7 was passed, yes. But at what cost? The cost is the trust of the Zambian people. And in a democracy, that is a cost you cannot afford." When pressed on specific numbers, Lango provided this assessment: in the Copper Belt, which gave UPND significant support in 2021, I predict they will lose at least 8 parliamentary seats. In Lusaka, another 5 to 7 seats. Even in areas they consider strongholds, the margins will narrow significantly. And in the presidential race, which is what really matters, I see the UPND candidate, whether it's President Hichilema running again or someone else, getting less than 45% of the vote. That's not enough to win in the first round. The moderator asked a final question: "What would you say to those who think you're simply being partisan, that you're making this prediction because you're part of the opposition?" Lango smiled slightly before responding, "I would say this: watch. Don't take my word for it. Watch what happens in the by-elections coming up. Watch the mood at public gatherings. Talk to ordinary Zambians. Not in Lusaka, but in the villages, in the markets, in the compounds. They will tell you. The UPND has overplayed its hand. And in politics, that is rarely forgiven." Deeper analysis. So what are we to make of Esther Lango's bold prediction? Is there substance to her claims, or is this simply opposition rhetoric dressed up as political analysis? To understand the full picture, we need to examine several layers of this story. First, the reaction from the UPND government itself. Within 24 hours of Lango's speech, the UPND Secretary General, Batuka Menda, held a press conference dismissing her claims as desperate opposition propaganda. He argued that Bill 7 enjoys support among the majority of Zambians and that the party's internal polling shows them in a strong position heading into 2026. UPND spokesperson Joseph Kalimbwe went further, stating, "Esther Lango is entitled to her dreams, but dreams are not reality. The reality is that UPND delivered Bill 7 as part of our campaign promises. We promised constitutional amendments, and we delivered. The people will reward us for keeping our word." But not everyone in the political establishment is dismissing Lango's analysis. Several independent political analysts have come forward to suggest that she may have a point. Dr. Sishiwa, a respected political historian, noted in a newspaper column that the gap between government perception and ground reality is widening, and that Bill May 7 indeed proved to be a Pyrrhic victory for the UPND. Laura Mitty, a prominent civil society activist, offered this perspective. Whether UPND loses in 2026 or not remains to be seen. But what is undeniable is that Bill 7 has damaged their reputation among key constituencies, the youth, civil society, and even some traditional supporters who value democratic principles over partisan advantage. The legal community has also weighed in. Constitutional lawyers have pointed out that several provisions in Bill May 7 face court challenges, potentially creating a constitutional crisis in the lead-up to 2026. This uncertainty, they argue, benefits no one but especially harms the ruling party, which will be perceived as the architect of chaos. Perhaps most intriguingly, there are whispers, unconfirmed but persistent, that some within the UPND itself are concerned about the political fallout from Bill 7. Anonymous sources within the party have told journalists that internal polling does show a decline in support, particularly in urban areas and among younger voters. The public bravado, these sources suggest, masks private anxiety. The opposition, naturally, has seized on Lango's prediction as validation of their own messaging. Patrick Muchalika of the opposition Patriotic Front stated, "We have been saying from the beginning that Bill 7 is political suicide for UPND. Esther Lango has simply confirmed what we already knew." But there's a deeper question here, beyond partisan positioning. What does Bill 7 actually do? And why might it backfire politically? At its core, Bill 7 makes several significant changes. It alters the powers of the president, giving the executive more authority over judicial appointments. It changes the composition of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. It redraws constituency boundaries. And it modifies the rules around campaign financing and political party registration. Supporters argue these changes modernize Zambia's governance structures. Critics counter that they consolidate power in ways that undermine democratic checks and balances. The average voter, however, may not understand all these technical details. What they do understand is the perception of unfairness, of a government changing rules to suit itself. And this, perhaps, is the heart of Lango's argument. In a country that has valued its democratic credentials, Zambia has a proud history of peaceful transfers of power. Any action that appears to threaten those credentials risks a voter backlash. The UPND came to power in 2021 on a wave of democratic aspirations, promising to be different from the PF. If voters perceive that they have become what they once opposed, the political consequences could be severe. There's also the economic context to consider. Zambia continues to face economic challenges, high inflation, debt distress, unemployment. While the government can point to some macroeconomic stabilization, ordinary Zambians are still struggling. In such circumstances, political capital is precious. Spending it on a controversial constitutional amendment, rather than on demonstrable economic relief, may prove costly. Finally, there's the matter of political momentum and morale. Opposition parties, which have been fragmented and demoralized, now have a rallying point. Bill 7 gives them something concrete to campaign against. It provides a narrative. They change the rules because they know they can't win fairly. Whether or not that narrative is accurate is almost beside the point. If it resonates with voters, it becomes politically powerful. So there you have it, viewers. Esther Lango has thrown down the gauntlet with a prediction that has electrified Zambian politics. Bill 7 passed, but UPND will lose in 2026. We've examined her reasoning, the evidence she presents, the reactions from various quarters, and the deeper implications for Zambia's democratic journey. Is she right? Will the UPND's legislative victory prove to be the beginning of their electoral defeat? Or will they successfully navigate these troubled waters and secure another term? Only time and the wisdom of Zambian voters will tell. Thank you so much for watching this edition of InspirAfrica Official. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Do you think Esther Lango's prediction will come true? Does Bill 7 help or hurt the UPND's chances in 2026? What are you seeing on the ground in your communities? Your insights and perspectives are what make this conversation meaningful. We'll be back tomorrow with more coverage of the stories that matter to you, to Zambia, and to Africa as a whole. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, your voice matters. This is Nakash, signing off. See you tomorrow.